Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos.
Fam, we're not, like,
Fam,
you don't have to say your line just like that. Like, just be a little more free-flowing with it, fam. Come on.
Fam,
don't be one of those actors that just
all right,
has
listen. The reason why I do that is you have to bring the energía.
I know,
energy,
but that
that's
mean...
Spanish for energy, first of all. So you understand.
Thank you for playing the role of a white knight so very well.
Secondly, the reason why I do it with all that energy is to get the show off on the right foot.
It's not about the energy. It's the rehearsiveness of it that I have an issue with.
There is no rehearsiveness
Steve,
of it. I just do it.
Steve, if you're watching, please understand. You know what I'm talking about.
Anyways, let's get the show rolling today. There is no exaggeration. Where's my?
Yeah.
I want my brightness. Hold on.
It's just. I don't know.
That's not it. Okay. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much. Happy Friday, fun day Friday. Everybody's here. Trey Wright was the first to walk in the door today, and showing some love. Says, "Love you all, Trey Wright." Trey,
you are loved back.
We love you back, like you don't even know. And thank you very much to the 13 people so far who just jumped in onto the Convo Couch. On the YouTube, we only have 42 watching. Guys, remember, they're suppressing us.
Yeah.
They're not sending out bells and whistles and information. So you got to get out there right away. If you see us, you got to like, share, subscribe. You got to help us out with the algorithm. You got to help us spread the news. We got a great show for you today. And next week, we do have some great guests that are confirmed. Can I talk about them real quick?
Do you want to?
Yeah, they're confirmed. Camilla Presna, who used to be with Telesur America, now has a network that she's working with out of Bolivia. She's on the ground in Latin America. She's all over. She's in Nicaragua.
What network
She's in El
is that?
Salvador. What's that?
What network is it?
Here, let me bring it up because it's really hard for me to say it.
Is it Couch?
Yes.
That one? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. My Twitter's not letting me pull it up to go look at it, but that's the network she's on. And she's really critical of Bukele in El Salvador. And she's got a lot of things to say about Nicaragua. She's got a lot of things to say about Venezuela. She is literally boots on the ground in South America, Central America. So we're going to get her perspective of what's going on in the whole region. I'm really excited to have her on Monday. Then Wednesday, we have Max Kaiser here. That was my Max Kaiser. Max Kaiser and Stacey Hebert. Your Royal fucking Highness will be on the show on the Convo Couch this Wednesday coming up. So we have some great guests. I wonder what we will
talk about with him.
I don't know. Maybe we might talk about global warming with Max Kaiser. We'll talk a little Bitcoin. We'll talk about what's going on with that too as well. They're actually doing a little tour right now, but I'm excited to have them both on. So everybody's going to get to see the two best political duos together on one show come Wednesday. So like, share, subscribe. Get the news out there, fam. We're doing it, and we're doing it hot, fam. I'm really excited. So, and I am working on a guest for Wednesday right now that you're going to love. I'm not going to tell you right now. I'm hoping that she confirms, and I'm going to keep it a secret. But maybe we might have a good guest on Friday. But we'll wait. We'll see. Wow. I've been working on this guest for a while, and you will be very, very pleased. So we do have two great guests confirmed for Monday and Wednesday. And we'll, of course, have our show on Friday, and we'll see what's what. But we have a great show for you today, fam. A lot of stuff was going on. We had an amazing show on Wednesday. I want to thank you all for going there and watching the show and hitting the likes up. We're the number 2 watch video of the week on Rokfin. Right behind Jason Burmis, and on third place is The Last American Vagabond. So you get all your great news right there. 1, 2, 3. We hit the shows last week. I want to thank you guys for going over to Rokfin. We had over 200 watchers. We need to get that number up. It is the Rokfin revolution for us, where they don't suppress our content.
Yep.
They let us speak our minds, say what we want, and that is ever so important because to me, fam, censorship is the biggest problem because no matter whatever you're into, what other issue you want to follow, what you want to push, if we are censored, we really can't get the word out there, and we can't fight back against the machine. And look how they're jailing whistleblowers left and right now. It is disgusting. So.
Right, and I gotta say, I haven't seen it yet, but I saw Max Blumenthal put out a video regarding vaccine mandates on COVID on Rokfin only. So it's looking like people are catching on and seeing what's what when it comes to the coronavirus and the vaccine mandates and all those things that we're going to talk about on Rokfin only.
Yes. So the fourth segment today, we have 4 segments. The fourth one will be Rokfin only because we're going to talk about the boop boop. We're going to talk about the vid, and we can't do that over here because they will suppress us like crazy and even give us a strike possibly. Yeah. So get on over to Rokfin now if you can. Let's get those numbers up. But for those of you who are on YouTube, we love YouTube.
All right, let's get started. What? All
That was
cops
my-
are bastards. ACAB. All cops are bastards.
Is a common theme that you hear out there, everybody
Yeah.
chanting and whatnot.
During the George Floyd protests, you know, the aftermath of all of that, people got out on the streets and they were fighting for, you know, against police brutality. And so the squad, of course, relayed that by talking about police brutality. They talked about George Floyd. They said they even called to defund the police. And people were like, wow, the squad, yay, they're doing this, right? That was a year ago. But actually recently, and we did go over this, they actually voted to give money to the police. Not all of them, but we'll talk about why it was still a virtue signal, meaning like it was all theater. Not the people who voted no to also keep the appearance up of being the anti-police squad. We'll talk more about that, but I wanted to first show this video of Cori Bush saying that she needed to have security around her.
Into social safety.
Want me to bring my...
The thing, I won't let them get that off. You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets. The thing, I won't let them get that off. You can't get that off. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life and I have too much work to do. There are too many people that need help right now for me to allow that. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend $10 more on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets.
Okay.
Suck it up, fam.
Right. So
Suck it
while
up.
she's saying defund the police, she is also saying that she needs to, you know, and ramp up security for herself. And I totally get that she feels her life is in danger. I'm sure a lot of people who are right wing don't like her. A lot of people like us also don't like her, but for different reasons, or don't like her policies. It's not even anything about her as a person. What do you guys feel about that? Because for me, it's like, I'm done with the whole politicians are a separate class and they should be protected with security guards. Do you have security guards walking around protecting your life? Why does their life matter more than ours? That's essentially what she's saying.
Yeah.
She's saying, and our life matters more than the rest of you all. You're all just here and we're
Suck
here.
it up, fam.
Like, that's not how it should be. And I
Yeah.
know this is nothing new, but like, I don't think people have really thought about this. Like, why is it okay that rich people and politicians and celebrities get to walk around with security and armed people, and yet they get to disarm everybody else? And you see it with the mask thing too. Like you'll see like the Kardashians completely maskless on their vacation, but all the staff wearing a mask. And you see it like that time and time again. It's this sort of like elitism, and they're putting that in on every single level.
Yeah, well, to me, the thing that really stands out is the hypocrisy, right?
Right.
Because there's an argument right there. Defund the police, we always said it wasn't the best message, but we understood what it meant. We have to really reimagine the
wording of
police.
it.
We have to reimagine the police. When
I
we
don't
talk
even,
about...
yeah.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
that one, I was just going to say, I don't even know if I would even say those words would be it. I know what's his name was here. Garland was talking about it.
Yeah.
I would just say we need to like specify what it is, like what we're doing.
Yeah.
That either one doesn't really specify, and reimagine was also used by Barack Obama too. So
Yeah, I hear you too, and I think Johnny used it once before. We were talking about it.
yeah, Johnny did too.
Where we feel that the police needs to be not necessarily defunded, but moved and money moved around and situations change. Where number one, we don't want them militarized, right? We don't want them having army vehicles on the streets, high grade weapons, that kind of thing. Number two, we've always talked about like, okay, the police can't have oversight on themselves, right? They can't investigate themselves. We have to have another body go in there and investigate police and hold them accountable when they do commit crimes, right? So whatever defund the police means to you, whatever
right,
it is.
because to me, defund the police means like for me, I don't want the police to exist the way they do now, period. That's I disagree with you. Like for me, like I don't think we should just move money around. I think for me, it's like they're so rotten that we can't fix it. So for me, it's like I want to do a whole type of different system where it's not really people policing other people. So that, like, again, so you know, that's what, because you're saying we, and I just wanted to clarify. I have a different position.
I'll say me. So me, and your position's different. But whatever the case may be, they're being very, very hypocritical with it, what they're doing. Right. So whether you believe in the police should stay the way it is, whether you should be reformed, whether you should be the way Fee says and change it and stuff, they've used this to go ahead and kind of promote their brand as like, we're going to take on the police, we're going to knock them down, we're going to take away their money, we're not going to let them exist the way they are. But yet, when it comes to themselves, it's okay. It's okay for police for me. So, so it's hypocritical at best, is what I'm saying. So we all have different ideas about what the police should
and that's
be. That's
kind of like the problem.
Yeah.
Because then it's like this brand of a general thing where different people think different things. And they're just capitalizing on that politically. Yeah. They're just using a slogan to get votes from the left and progressives without specifying what they mean, and simultaneously supporting legislation that contradicts that stance, which is what they've been doing pretty much at every turn, which is why we criticize the squad more than Republicans, because Republicans never promised to defund the police. They told you straight up, no, we love police, so back the blue. So okay, I know where they stand. They're not gonna move on that. So who's supposedly going to move on that? Oh, it's progressives, which is why it pisses me off tenfold when they lie.
Yeah.
So
and the whole thing is there's too much wiggle room when you have a catchphrase like defund the police. It gives these politicians too much wiggle room to say, oh, I wasn't talking about defunding them there, I'm talking about defunding them here. And you can constantly change the goalposts like Cori Bush is doing, and literally telling people to suck it up that she gets more security while they got to defund the police for everybody else is just going to come off as hypocritical at best. You know what I'm saying? But these are the issues we face.
So the squad called to actually defund the police, but then quietly caved when it really mattered. If you guys, we talked about this, I think back in May, and so they could have actually stopped this bill. That's what was really obnoxious about it, because it was six of them. And they could have collectively stopped the $1.9 billion increase in the Capitol Police budget from happening. And it's, of course, that also went into security. We went over it with Jonny. It was like the FBI had some, the NSA, and Glenn Greenwald, of course, outlined this in his article. That was a really good article. And that funding, it was $1.9 billion for the Capitol, would have completely been dead had the squad not voted present. And so specifically, AOC, Jamal Bowman, Rashida Tlaib all said defund the police and blah, blah, blah. But then they voted present. They were going to vote no, right? They told everybody, we're going to vote no. Yeah. We're going to, all the activist groups, we're going to vote no on this. We don't want more money for the police. But then when they realized that would have killed the bill, because they were just going to vote no for theater.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole point. They were going to vote no for theater. But when they realized that would kill the bill, 3 of them voted present, and that allowed the bill to pass. Yeah. So they voted against some Republicans, which was hilarious, for more police money. And of course, this is where they play team sports. The only reason the Republicans were voting no was because it was about January 6th, a lot of them. And the only reason, they were voting present was because, we have to show loyalty with the Democratic Party and blah, blah, blah. So it was a whole virtue signal theatrics. And so it also included them getting police funding for themselves.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. When it's Capitol Police, it's a little bit different than regular police, whatnot. The Capitol Police is specifically for the majority of the members of Congress, so they get extra protection and whatnot. And this is one of the most telling things out there, fam, this particular present vote, because their overlords, their bosses told them vote present to let it slip by. And this is something that where you have to call the squad out. And if I was there, I would have said on those steps, AOC, why did you vote present on the Capitol funding police, the funding for the Capitol Police bill? Why did you vote present, Jamal Bowman? Why did you do that? Right? Because it was just as good as a yes vote. Because it helped pass through. It allowed it to get through. And that's why I'm saying when it comes to these votes, you got to pay. We as a nation have to start paying more attention to what's going on in Congress. The way Jonny kind of pulls up the bill and looks at its stuff. This is very important because this is all telling on what they're doing.
So just so you guys know what Pasta said is true, they actually pulled a meeting with Pelosi and the leaders of the Democratic Party. And they basically said, okay, you guys are going to have to vote some of you are going to have to vote present so this can pass. That literally happened, and it's described in multiple articles. But you can see here, this is a final vote results from the roll call, 156, and that's the next tab, Johnny. It's the yay and nay passage on May 20th.
Look at that.
2021, and you guys will see the AOC and well, this is the yays and the nays, and then there's present, and there's 3.
Yep.
Those 3.
Yep.
On the Democratic side, of course, are AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Jamal Bowman.
And if the 3 vote nay, and you can see them right
pass.
there, it doesn't pass.
Yep.
The police are defunded.
Yeah.
You're literally going to defund the Capitol Police that way. You're not going to give them extra funding. So their nay is just the same as a yay. That's what I'm saying. Their yay, it would be, it would be 215 to 213. Their president is just the same as a nay. So. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in addition to that, one of the things that Franco got so much pushback for, and when he went down there to cover, is that he said they voted to give more money to Israel. Max Blumenthal also hinted at Adam Schiff's money to Israel, etc. And people are like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it has everything to do with everything, because a lot of her money goes to Israel, and Israel has Medicare for all. They have health care for everybody, universal coverage for their people specifically. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, you can't ask those questions when so much of our foreign policy is our domestic policy. But Franco had to clarify. When he said he meant specifically certain members, and one of those members, it was Ilhan Omar, who was there taking pictures at the Capitol. She was there hugging AOC and Cori Bush. Now, AOC and Cori Bush did not vote for this particular bill that we're going to go over, but Ilhan Omar and others, I believe Bauman did as well. So Ilhan Omar backed the $62 billion bill that included continued unconditional support for Israel, okay? And Ilhan Omar, out of all people, right?
Yeah, she's the one who did the bling bling one, right?
Yeah, and well, she's also gotten so much backlash from APAC and all of these, pro-Israeli groups. She has been smeared to no end. But this whole bill actually was an approval of annual U.S. foreign operations related programs funding bill. That's what it was called. And it, among other things, greenlit Washington's yearly $3.3 billion in unconditional aid to Israel. And it surprised everybody. Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Lee Bauman, I think they met Jamal Bauman,
yeah,
and Pramila Jayapal, split with the squad of Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and Cori Bush in securing the narrow victory for the Democratic Party. And they have been critical on Israel, but again, the bill passed narrowly, 217 for and 212 against. Do the math. I mean, just a few less votes, it wouldn't have gone through.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so they take turns.
Exactly.
They take turns as to who says nay and who says yay. And that's what Glenn Greenwald was putting out in his article. This is all for show, because they're like, okay, this time you guys vote nay, we'll vote nay.
Very strategic about it, fam.
We have to appease our progressive, sector of the people that are loyal to us, because we can't all just show that, And this is what politicians do. This is mostly of what they do.
Yeah. It's funny because Cori Bush got to vote the proper way twice. Jamal Bauman had to vote twice the other way. You know what I'm saying? He had to go vote president that one time, letting it go through, and he had to split in this particular one.
Yeah. So I want to, unless you want to read anything else from that, I want to go over the text. Yeah. So the bill also includes funding for the Department of State. But I wanted to read how that's related, because it's not just, the $3.3 billion in aid to Israel is one aspect. The rest is like NEDs, NGOs. They talk about the Peace Corps. They talk about all of this crap that is just complete like garbage for U.S. foreign policy, USAID, etc. So it's also, by the way, before we go into that, I just want to point out it's a very anti-BDS bill. Like, it's completely against, it destroys the idea of BDS completely. So this is the bill. It was HR 4373 of the 117th Congress. So this is the latest Congress at that time. And it was in the House of Representatives. Miss Lee from the Committee on Appropriations reported the following bill. And it makes appropriations for the Department of State, Foreign Operations, and related programs for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2022, and for other purposes. And again, I'm just going to read the very first part. The Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assemble that the following sums are appropriated out of the money in the Treasury as otherwise appropriated for the Department of State, Foreign Operations, and related programs for this fiscal year. And there it says Department of State and related agency. And then it talks about the expenses, foreign service, and other not otherwise provided. It goes down the list as to the money appointed for overseas programs, for diplomatic policy, etc. And until you get down, Johnny, you're going to get down to the picture. Exactly. So you can see it right here. I think it's at page 44. I'm just going to read that one. Under Foreign Military Financing Program, for necessary expenses for grants to enable the president to carry out the provisions of Section 23 of the Arms Export Control Act. There it is. I think that says $6 billion, right? $6,175,000,000 for 124,000 provided that to expedite the provision of assistance to foreign countries and international organizations, the Secretary of State, following consultation with the committees of appropriations and subject to the regular notification procedures of such committees, may use the funds appropriated under the heading to procure defense articles and services to enhance the capacity foreign security forces, provided further that of the funds under this heading, not less than $3,300,000,000 shall be available for grants only for Israel, which shall be distributed within 30 days of enactment of this act. Provided further, that is to the extent that the government of Israel requests that funds be used for such purposes, grants made available for Israel under this heading shall still be as agreed by the United States and Israel. And of course be available for advanced weapon systems. And then they talk about, the specifics. We've actually covered this before, so I'm not going to continue to read that much more of it. But I just wanted to remind everybody they voted for that, and that was recent, as of May. And this is all in accordance to this memorandum that was pushed under President Barack Obama. Under President Barack Obama, there was a memorandum of understanding that was reached with Israel. And this memorandum of understanding, you can see it, this was dated 2016, and it says, under President Obama's leadership, the multifaceted cooperation between the United States, Freudian slip, between the United States and Israel has reached unprecedented levels. This is particularly true with regard to the security of Israel. The new 10-year Security Assistance Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, to Israel is the most recent reflection of President Obama's unshakable commitment to Israel's security. Under the new MOU with Israel, the Obama administration has made the largest single pledge of military assistance in U.S. history.
They're proud of it, fam.
The total value of the MOU, which covers for year 2019 to fiscal year 2019 to fiscal year 2028, is $3.8 billion per year. It will succeed the current $30 billion MOU signed in 2007, which will expire at the end of 2018. Like I said, this was 2016. The amount represents a significant increase over the current MOU by every measure and will enable Israel to acquire additional advanced military capabilities from the United States. $33 billion for military FMF funds and an unprecedented $5 billion commitment to missile defense assistance. This will be dispersed in equal increments of $3.3 billion in FMF and $500 million in missile defense funding each year for the duration of the understanding. And it will permit Israel to update its lion's share of its fighter aircraft fleet, including through the acquisition of additional F-35s, missile defense, and other capabilities to meet its threat environment. So I mean, it's the largest funding ever by the United States to anybody else, and it's basically just weapons and everything that we have seen Israel now continuously bomb Lebanon just recently, Syria, of course, what they do to Palestine. We've seen the protests that have erupted regarding Palestine. And it's kind of crazy to me that this is something that a lot of people slept on, because we talked about it at the time, but like, come on, guys, like, this is the squad. This is like foreign policy. And I think a lot of progressives like push foreign policy aside, or they cherry pick. Oh, but they voted against it. But really, when you look at the way the voting is done, how calculated it is, you can tell that that they obviously planned to do it specifically for these bills to pass, because their votes would have made the difference. Yep. So what the hell is the point of electing them if they're going to vote or manipulate it so they, at least half of them, vote in line with Pelosi and the establishment Democrats, when they're pretty much doing the bidding for them? But it's worse because they're pretending that they're actually against it. And to me, that is 10 times worse. I'm sorry. It's like 100 times worse.
Yep. Jeez. It's so funny, too, because it's just like, I was just about to say, fam, the reason why we vote for them is they align with our values more than the Republicans. They're more like us, you know what I'm saying? So therefore, we have to take the scraps and the pieces of you know what. But we've said this before. They're a lot more dangerous because the fact they come with warm smiles, like they're your friends, like they're fighting on your side. But any chance they get to screw you, they screw you. Max hit it on the nose the other day. Said, you're giving all this money to apartheid Israel, yet you can be using this money at home for the housing, and you're not doing it. Why? You know what I'm saying? And we also talked about this funding bill right over here. How are you going to come out there and you're going to be, we got to defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. Then three of you sneakily, you're being sneaky, vote present on a bill so it passes, and then you're going exactly against what you said you were campaigning on. It's almost like the healthcare for all situation. This is the number one issue you said you were going to bring to the table. You're going to get passed. You haven't done shit for it. You wouldn't get involved with Forced to Vote. You wouldn't get involved with the Medicare for All marches. You showed up for one little photo op, Cory Bush.
And Cory Bush has done more than the others. I mean, in terms of the showing up and in terms of doing this. But how do we know that that's not like a planned thing? Like, how do we know that all of this isn't every single calculated move when subsequently after what happened at the Capitol steps, they were all asking for funding. AOC sent out an email requesting funding. Cory Bush sent out texts requesting funding. If this wasn't about you, then why are you so quick to send out emails like, oh, let me pat myself on the back for this, like faux victory as people are getting evicted. Let me pat myself on the back for that. And then also demand money from the working class that is already suffering and you haven't really done anything tangibly for.
This is what this break from Congress was. This break from Congress was a chance, the 7-week period, to go back and start fundraising for your campaign. That's what it's about. So all this stuff was set up for them to go fundraising on. Plain and simple. Because the very next day when people tried to go out there, when they left, the Capitol Police started kicking them off the steps. So you can't be here. So it was all theater. So they can use this for fundraising. So they can dupe the American people and say, look what I did. I'm Cory Bush. I was an activist then. I'm an activist now. And I'm fighting for you. Fund my campaign. They're all doing that. AOC claiming victory on Instagram. Oh, this is a victory, whatnot. And as we go into the situation, we'll see it's really not a victory at all, because this moratorium is a lot more hocus pocus, fam, than we thought it would be in the first place. And we've also said it wasn't the solution. They didn't say cancel the rent. They said let's kick the can down the road. Plain and simple.
And so
I can't get it up here, but I can read there. You want me to read that Biden or?
Yeah, let's just show the video because Joe Biden just signed a bill, of course, for giving medals to the Capitol Police because of January 6th, and we'll talk about it after. Let's just watch.
Why do they do this to themselves, fam? Isn't there somebody in charge that says, okay, from now on, no pictures of children near Biden at all? No pictures of little girls. He like sniffed her shoulder.
Yeah, I know. It's people weren't even paying attention to the fact that, the writer of the crime bill and the Patriot Act is obviously pro-military and pro-police because he's too busy sniffing the little girl. So it's like people are like, wait a minute, why is he doing that? She looks uncomfortable. Yeah. She looked really uncomfortable.
And why does the little kid have a mask and then Biden doesn't? Pelosi doesn't. Nobody. I mean, first of all, kids shouldn't be having masks on. Bottom line, that's bullshit. And why doesn't anybody else have a mask if they're so like harping on all these mask mandates and mask saves lives? He's like breathing in her ear.
Yeah, it's none of this makes sense at all. So the bill is HR 1085, and it's to award 3 congressional gold medals to the United States Capitol Police and those who protected the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Wow.
Oh, the virtue signal is great.
This is a giant virtue signal.
Yeah, and I think I have the text if you go to it, Johnny. It's an act, HR 1085, and then it says it right there. Every day, the U.S. Capitol Police protects the U.S. Capitol members of Congress. On January 6th, a mob of insurrectionists forced its way into the U.S. Capitol building and congressional office buildings and engaged in acts of vandalism, looting, and violently attacked Capitol Police officers. The sacrifice of heroes, including Capitol Police officers Brian Sicknick and Howard Liebengold, Metropolitan Police Department officer Jeffrey Smith, and those who sustained injuries, and the courage of Capitol Police officer Eugene Goodman exemplify the patriotism and the commitment of Capitol Police officers and those of other law enforcement agencies to risk their lives in service of our country. Up to 7 Americans died following this violent attack. Literally not all to do with the attacks, but okay. And more than 140 law enforcement officers suffered physical injuries, including 15 officers who were hospitalized. The desecration of the U.S. Capitol, which is the temple of American democracy, and the violence targeting Congress are horrors that will forever stain our nation's history. Worse than 9/11, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than the Big Bang. And so that's what they did. Yeah, so they did this, guys. Now they get medals, they get more money, right? So all you people who voted for Joe Biden because you thought Trump
mitigating damage
was a fascist, pro-police, pro-Israel. Well, hello, you have Zionist Joe, you have pro-cop giving medals to the cops, you have the squad also voting in line with the Democratic establishment, loving cops too, loving foreign interventions and money to Israel. At least half of them each time take turns depending on what it is. And there you go. And that's who your allies are in Congress. Fiorella, why are you attacking our allies? So, you're so rude to them. You're so mean. You need to be nicer. How am I going to be nicer when their actions are directly contradicting the things they ran on, the things they took money from working class people? Because it's even worse, because if they're not taking, PAC money besides brand new Congress and Justice Democrats, which is still a PAC, if they're not taking PAC money, right, they're from, rich assholes, and they're taking it from us, doesn't that make it worse when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing? No longer is it good enough for you not to take any dark money. It's what you do with the money from the working class. That to me is 10,000 times, more important, because these people don't really have money to give, and they're giving it to you thinking you're going to help them, and then you fucking don't. And so that's that. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Johnny, anything to say on this? All right. You got anything else to say on this?
No, but I think we still have.
No, that's the next subject.
Oh, okay. No,
that's the
then
next
we're
subject
good.
and stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, fam, they show their hypocrisy every single step of the way. All right? When it comes to Medicare for all, when it comes to defunding the police, all the issues that they ran out, that the progressives are so like, oh my God, we got to get done. Mm-hmm. Well, where are the progressives at this when they're doing this in front of their face? Where are they at when they're doing this? I don't hear you calling them out. In fact, you see donkeys on the steps that went after Franco, saying they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Why are we messing with the people who most align with us? TYT, Emma Vigeland, these people align with us and our values and stuff like that. Bullshit. They're here to dupe you. And those people that we just mentioned, they're here to help them dupe you.
They're their narrative
That's why they're exactly. They get paid for it. That's what they do. Acknowledge it. Get on. Unsubscribe. Get out of their faces. Don't pay attention to them anymore. Let's move on. They've showed their true colors. It's time to move on. It's time to go with media that's going to give it to you like it's supposed to be given to you. The truth. That's it. Bottom line. Statistic. Numbers don't lie. Anyways, Trey Wright, he was the first one to walk in the door. James Evans says, hello, you two. +1. ... smiley face, smiley face, big hug, little kiss, big hug, little kiss, Johnny. Roar Media says there is no point in electing them. Ask some of our current candidates why they are running in a system so ripe with corruption. Why should we invest in their campaigns with direct actions? why should we invest in their campaigns when direct actions are desperately needed? They are part of the problem, in my opinion. In other words, what Roar Media and Oz and our family saying over there is that what you said, let's go for direct actions. Let's get on the streets. Let's get demand for what we want. Let's stop backing these politicians that aren't going to do work for us. The squad, the progressives in there, they have done nothing for us. We just showed you how they play chess. You know, the mental mind fuck they give you when it comes to their votes and stuff. They're not for you. All of them are exposed right there. You have 0 friends in Washington.
None.
Get that straight. You have 0 friends in Washington, progressive. It's time to look for another route, and I'm starting to agree more and more with Fiorella every single day because I still have my hopes that electoral politics with election reform can get straightened out, but I don't know at this point.
These people don't want election reform. They don't because it's convenient for them to continue. And we'll talk about, Nina Turner and all that stuff we already did, but it just gets worse because this eviction moratorium isn't actually stopping evictions. Again, to remind you guys, it's a targeted eviction moratorium, and there's a 10% of people or more that aren't going to receive this, and it's depending on how high COVID is within your city, which is ridiculous. And then it's going to get worse and worse like that because they're going to be attaching things like vaccine and this and that.
Oh,
it's kind of like that. It's kind of like in schools, like, if you do well, you get more money, but the schools that do well are already have more money. So the kids do better. And so those people get more money. It's that same kind of mentality where you're just only helping like a sector of people. You're not helping people across the board. You're putting, these qualifiers on it. And that's not a good win because you're also kicking the can down the road, as you said.
Yeah.
And you're not actually solving the crisis of unhoused, already hundreds of thousands and thousands of unhoused people, millions across the country. And not to mention people who work full time as well, who can't afford rent. Not to mention the people who will become homeless as these evictions come.
Yep. And fam, if they keep changing the goalpost and the progressives or leftists keep going along with it, in other words, every single time they change the goalpost, look what they did in the whole boop boop situation. If you get the boop boop, you don't have to wear the mask. Oh, you got the boop boop, now you got to wear the mask. We're going to talk more about that and whatnot. They always change the goalpost every single step of the way, and you guys buy it. You guys actually repeat their talking points. Well, yeah, we know we had to change because of this happened and that happened. No. They keep changing the goalposts. Why are you allowing them to change the goalposts? So this is a tweet from our man Ian Schlockman, who I gave him a call. And Ian's a big housing advocate. He does a lot of work with the homeless. He works with Reverend Annie Chambers, whatnot. The guy's amazing. He was a Green Party candidate for president at one point, but now he's no longer in the Green Party. But he put down this. He says, Ian Schlockman says, the moratorium applies to counties experiencing substantial and high levels of community transmission levels. Now, you know how they can mess with these numbers. You know how they can move these things around. So it's going to be in question who gets this money. The Supreme Court has also said they don't want to uphold the last one, but did because it was only for a few more weeks. If this lasts 2 weeks, I'll be amazed. That is something that's coming up to everybody's talking about right now, fam, is the fact that the Supreme Court is not going to be able to uphold this moratorium. People are talking about the Third Amendment, which is about quartering soldiers. So it all plays into part that a lot of people think that this moratorium is going to be struck down in a little while. And it just says, I'm going to click into the article real quick, Johnny. It just says the CDC announces new eviction ban despite Supreme Court threat. And the moratorium will apply to counties experience substantial and high levels of community transmission levels of COVID-19 that will last till October 3rd. The Biden administration said on Tuesday announced a new targeted federal eviction plan to replace the one that expired over the weekend, setting up potential clash with the Supreme Court. The CDC and Prevention's new ban will apply to counties experiencing substantial and high levels of community transmission levels of COVID-19, and it will last till October 3rd, the agency said. Now, I'm just not going to read more into that and stuff like that, but what I'm going to talk about real quick is the fact that a lot of people think that the Supreme Court is going to strike this down and leave people in the cold. From the get-go, fam, the plan should have been, instead of a moratorium, it should have been to cancel the rent, right?
Right.
They have all these funds out there that are allocated that still are not hitting their spot, and we'll get through that too as well.
And also, like, Joe Biden has executive powers that he can do to go above the CDC. Like, the CDC can relate it to COVID, but he can relate it to economics. He can just say, okay, as a result of all of the just fallback from the pandemic, I'm going to issue and not only a moratorium, but also a cancellation of all the rent in the past year. Our economy is not doing great. That, like, we need to put more money into the hands of people, blah, blah, blah. And that would, of course, bring up spending. People would be happier. They wouldn't feel a heavy burden on their shoulders. What's going to happen? Well, am I going to be able to have my rent forgiven? How am I going to pay all this back? Plus, in addition, there's no job security now. We might go into lockdown again. All these things are happening and people are so stressed out. He could do that. He could do a lot of things. He could do the same with Medicare for all. He could do the same with a lot of things. He's not doing it. So them playing the blaming game with the CDC and the White House and all of this, that's irrelevant. And now, why does the CDC have so much power? It's not a governing agency. Why does the CDC have so much power? And then you have, on top of the CDC, you have the Supreme Court that can just simply strike this down.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what the hell? That's not how this is supposed to work. The balance of power is completely off, and it just depends on who gets to blame who. But really, at the end of the day, if they wanted to do something, they would have done it already.
Yep. And that's something that's going on as well. You see a lot of Congress members are now blaming the states for not allocating the money, and we'll get into that in a second. This is from Stephanie Stokes. This next one, this tweet. She says, in Fulton County eviction court today, tenant says he's approved for the rental assistance, but the payment hasn't been made. Judge won't reset the case and gives him 10 minutes to check with the case worker. Landlord then asked, it says, check with the case worker, who says the payment will take 7 to 14 days. The landlord then asks for eviction. The judge approves. So this is something we have to look in here, but the CDC moratorium, if tenants don't claim the protection, it doesn't apply. I watched at least 3 evictions go through today. Everyone expressing surprise here should really visit their local eviction court, especially if they're in the South. State law favors landlords. Here are the court hearings I attended where I was among multiple journalists. So this is going on right now, left and right, fam, because if you don't have the proper representation, and we've talked about this when it came to Elena Pop and all these people, you need a lawyer in your court, in your side, to help you get these protections. If you don't have it, you're more than likely to get thrown out on your ass. This money was already approved to this person. This person's sitting there for months waiting for this money to go through. It hasn't gone through. They evicted him. Now, what happens? We don't know the whole procedures, and we're gonna go into this whole situation where, well, what happens to the money that was allocated to the states if it doesn't get to the people? Do they get to keep it, or does it get kicked back to the federal government? If they do get to keep it, what do they get to use it for? Do they get to use it for their own benefit? Would that give them motive to say, okay, let's not get these funds out to people because then we get to keep the money in the back end? We don't know. We got to see what's going to happen, because I think it's very unclear what happens to the fund if they don't get to the people. In other words, if there's a lot of money left in the kitty, does the state get to keep it and use it for whatever?
Yeah, well, they're not doing that. They're not. A lot of governments, even AOC had to admit this, they're not allocating the money where it's supposed to go. And then when that eviction moratorium expires, then what? Then you're left in limbo, because if you don't have that money, even though you were approved that money, and it expires, are they just going to take it away? Like, what's going on here? And that's where people are at. That's why I don't know what progressives are celebrating. They're acting like they're putting on this cloak of, oh, yay, Cori Bush, see, this works. It works to support. We need more squad members like that. We need hundreds and hundreds of Cori Bushes, because, again, the establishment knows they can no longer just present to you a full-on neoliberal that plays a neoliberal. They have to present to you a neoliberal cloaked in progressive jargon and progressive branding, so you buy into it and you're like, oh, hey, this works, but it's the same fucking party. It's the same type of rot. You're not changing anything. You're just rebranding it into something else, okay? It's still shitty soap. It just has a nicer color and a nicer box, and that's it. But at the end of the day, the soap is still fucking shitty and it doesn't work. And so that's that. That's where we're at with the squad and with the eviction moratorium.
Speaking of the squad, Ian Schlockman, I put up another one of his tweets. It says, most people are still getting kicked out. I don't give a fuck about your opinion about the squad. What the fuck are we going to do about this? We need to get back out there and protest about this now. Hashtag the pandemic is still raging. Hashtag no healthcare for all. And now hashtag eviction crisis, because new federal eviction protection doesn't cover parts of Maryland. And that's the thing, it's not going to cover certain spots. So people will be getting thrown out on the streets. Why? We didn't have the proper plan from the get-go, which was what? Cancel the fucking rent. cancel the rent. No moratorium. That's all they did was kick the can down the road. And now they thought they kicked it down the road several months. It only went down the road 2 weeks, fam, because now it looks like the federal court the Supreme Court might be able to overturn the moratorium. And here's the opinion piece by the Washington Post. The CDC's eviction moratorium is almost certainly illegal. And it just talks about, I'm going to read the first paragraph really quick. Americans behind their rent payments have cheered when the Center for CDC announced Tuesday a new eviction moratorium for most of the nation. This one's set to last until October, with some 6 million people owing back rent, many of them victims of COVID-19 sudden economic damage. There's little doubt about the need for aid, particularly because people are about to be thrown out of their homes just as disease rates are climbing. But the CDC's action was almost certainly illegal. Under pressure from Speaker House Pelosi and progressive Democrats, President Biden and the CDC may have muted accusations that have failed to stick up for desperate renters. The administration also may succeed in giving many Americans a short reprieve from eviction, but perhaps not as long as advertised, because courts may strike it down before October at the expense of the rule of law.
Exactly, and they knew this, guys. They know this. They know this, and so. What was that whole thing about? It was a complete PR stunt. It was a complete PR stunt. And they're also slow to get funds as well.
Yeah. Well, this is the big point we're talking about. And I have to dive into this. Yeah. I left a message with Ian. I'm trying to figure out I don't know if each state has a certain rule, what has to be done with the funds, what was allocated from the federal government, what happens if the funds don't get to the people, what happens if people don't maintain possession of their house but have been approved and then get evicted. Do they still get to kick back to the fact that they were approved, or does that now come off the table? It's crazy, because here's an article right now. With eviction ban expiring in 14 days, many states have given out under 5% of the rental assistance. Fam, do you think under 5% of the corporations got their fucking money from the federal government when it came to the CARES Act and whatnot?
No.
Do you think they got their money and stuff?
Well, yeah. Well, they got all their money.
Of course they did. But when it comes to the goddamn people, now the states are dragging their ass on allocating funds to people who need rental assistance. Why? What's their motive? Dude, like I said, we got to figure all this out right now.
Where's this money going then?
If
it doesn't go to these people?
Exactly. It's going to go into contractors' pockets again. It says many states have been slow to give out the billions of dollars in rental assistance allocated by Congress. Housing advocates blame unnecessarily complex paperwork and arduous requirements for the delays. All that could soon result in a wave of evictions. So now we have the fucking money here, but now it's not getting allocated properly.
And it's drowned in bureaucracy, because we know our government is just full of bureaucracy, right? So it's gross. It's shitty, and it's shittier that people are celebrating this. Again, it's barely a Band-Aid. It's literally mostly not even a Band-Aid at this point when you look into it. And you're going to start seeing more and more people speak out and say, hey, I'm getting evicted. What's up? Because people are living it, right? Oh, Cori Bush can go rest, and AOC comes in. Oh, we're doing good. A lot of these kids, as Franco said, that were there, were staffers, or there were kids that went to these elite schools in DC, very expensive schools, have no idea what it's like to be in house. They have no idea what it's like to be working class. And so for them, this is all fun and games. Oh, yay, we're patting ourselves on the back. We're doing our part. Yay. Like, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'm going to say that's from what I saw from Max Blumenthal and Franco's videos, and how these people were responding with this arrogance and like, we're doing what we can and blah, blah, blah. And we have to help our public servants instead of the other way around. Your public servants have to fucking help you. Yeah. They're there to serve you, morons. Like, I know you don't see it because maybe you've been living in a different reality than the rest of us, but like, they're there to help you.
Yeah. Can we talk about that for 1 second, fam? Because I'm wondering,
in the next one.
What's that?
We're gonna talk about.
Okay, because I want to ask about the psychology of the people who are defending them and what's on their mind. So we'll wait to the next section, because I want you guys. I want your opinion, Johnny. I want your opinion, Fee, about why you think these people defend these politicians like there's no tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? I understand why the TYT and the people who take the money defend them, because that's what they're paid to do. But why does the everyday average person defend them? And that's what I want. I want to think about the psychology of that for a second, and I'll give my opinion when we get into the next section. Johnny, you want to say anything else about this section? All right, so Saturman Refugee, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. Guys, we had 80 people here on the Rokfin. Let's get 100 over here. We got 75 now. We got a couple, almost 300 on the YouTube. Get on over to the Rokfin, ROKFIN. Fam, guess who left the Super Ray? Shadowban Refugee.
Shadowband.
Can anybody explain to me how an activist who's in Washington, hashtag for the people, not hashtag quotes, ends up a freshman congresswoman as the vice chair for the Committee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security? Also happens to be the committee that Medicare for All legislation, which is dog shit, is locked in. I'm on this. I'm on to this Cory Bush. Shadow ban. We still got to talk about the infrastructure ban bill with shadow ban when we get down to it too as well. Valerie Dennison, I respect you all so much. Valerie, we respect you, and we thank you for the Super Rate contribution. It helps us get out in the streets and do what we want to do. Kevin Shanholzer, worse than the Big Bang. I can't stop laughing. Ha 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 ha.
That's how they act. They act like it's the worst thing in the world. It was not, at all.
Carrie Mark, administration gets the largest chunk of money that is supposed to go to the people. The longer they hold it, the more they get. And that's what we have to figure out, Carrie Mark. Thank you for the Super 8. What happens to that money if they don't spend it on rental assistance? Or can they figure out another way to spend it? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm getting the feeling, fam, they're holding on to it so they don't have to give it out so they can spend it only the way they want to their friends and buddies and their contractors.
And why isn't anybody outraged about that? Like, why are we celebrating this bullshit PR stunt instead of being outraged at what the fuck is Gavin Newsom doing with this money? What is Cuomo doing with this money? What are these people doing with this money? These governments that are supposed to help you. Like, either we have a government that helps people or we don't have a government then. Right? Either, like, if the government isn't going to provide, then okay, sure, get rid of big government, get rid of it all. But then don't tell people what to do. You can't have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. Right now, we're in a system that is increasingly fascistic as the day goes by. So, Pasta.
Yes.
You wanted to talk about how the psyche of the people who are so protective of the squad, they're not just protective, they worship members of the squad.
Why?
They want to be them. They look up to them. They deify them. It's like they have made them into superheroes. And unfortunately, there have been comic books of the squad being superheroes and they already have so much power that they're not using for us, right? To do any good for the people. So people were saying that I was wrong, that, this was a genuine effort by Cory Bush, that she, has been unhoused. I'm not criticizing whatever she did before. She was an activist, whatever. There are videos and stuff of Cory Bush being an activist, etc. However, what I am criticizing is even if it came from, we have to do something, it was done last minute. It wasn't pushed out at all. It wasn't talked about at all before. And of course, it's led by her and only the staff members and the media that is friendly to her and people who just buy into their crap. It was not a very big protest at all. We got more people in our protest without being celebrity Congress people. And at the end of the day, even though that doesn't matter, I'm just telling you, they weren't inclusive. They didn't have that many working class people in attendance. They didn't elevate those voices that are actually whose life depends on this type of legislation, right? And so I think we were proven right by the fact that these people, as you mentioned before, were kicked out when they wanted to continue protesting, because one of the criticisms was like, okay, now we all go home. It's good. We got this. No, that's the bare minimum that they could have gotten. Bare minimum. What they should have gotten, the initial call was rent cancellation. That was the initial call during the coronavirus, if you recall. Yep. Rent cancellation, period, end of story. People aren't going to be able to pay this back. We're all the way down to, extend the moratorium. and people want to celebrate. So when these kids and these protesters went back to say, okay, we're going to stay until we get everything we want, there was a handful of them only, because we only go when Cory Bush and AOC are there because, oh my God, I'm such a fan. 1. 2, the media, the main media, right, didn't show up. there was a few media figures like Chuck Modi and Max Blumenthal who did show up, and a few other indie journalists. And they saw that these kids were kicked out. There was a fence put in. So look at this video by Chuck Modi where he asked the kid a question, and the guy says they kicked us out in the street, across the street. They kicked us across the street. Previously, we were guests of Cori Bush. Now we're just common people. Yep. So let's go ahead and watch.
No one is behind you on the steps. Could you tell me why?
They kicked us across the street because while we were here previously, we were guests of Representatives Cori Bush and AOC, and now that they have reached a temporary resolution, they're not officially hosting this anymore. So we are just common people, and we've been kicked across the yard to the grassy area there. We were told that we weren't allowed to have signs because that would be a demonstration, and you would need a permit for that, and we can assemble more than 19 people at a time because that would be a demonstration, and you need a permit for that, and we don't have that.
But those rules didn't apply when Representative Cori Bush and AOC and others were here.
No, they allowed us to be here with chairs and food and umbrellas and stuff. We were allowed to sit here overnight, and once the representatives left, then our graces were up with them.
And you were mentioning, and so folks know that you've been somebody who has been out at the post-George Floyd protest, since the beginning. And you were commenting to me in the last few days how nice the police were.
It was weird because normally it's us versus them, cops versus protesters. We get beaten, we get tear gassed, we get yelled at, cursed at, pushed around, punched, run over with bikes. And while we were here, they still enforced the rules, but they were very polite and professional about it, which I thought might have been a difference between Capitol Police versus MPD. But I think it's just because the representatives were out here with us, and they were actually the ones hosting us.
What was the type of behavior the police were in the last few days that you were seeing that was unusual?
They weren't cursing at us. They weren't shooting at us. They were very professional, like how you would expect police officers to act. And that hasn't been the case over the last year. That's why it was noticeably awkward.
Right. So we talked about this, right? Before I got cut off in my speech, one of the things that I was attempting to say was that during the Assange rally and the Force the Vote rally, we had more cops surrounding us than there were protesters, like ready to arrest us with zip ties, because that is a threat. That is an actual threat. People rising up, even in small numbers, because that movement can grow. That when you're actually challenging the status quo, you will always have police stand on the side of the status quo because they're there to protect. They're the stormtroopers to protect the empire. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're there to do. Don't get it twisted. So when I didn't see police surrounding the Capitol steps during this whole ensemble, when I didn't see this aggressiveness that I have documented, Jonny has documented, Pasta has seen. We have seen this over the past year and a half. For the BLM protests, for any protest, even Palestine, where they had the barbed wire, the Free Palestine protests. We have seen the way these police have reacted to us compared to how they're reacting when there's a congressperson. The rules don't apply to them, you guys. They have different rules. The 1%, the predator class, and they are part of it, has different rules. Those in power have different rules. That's why they treat them like they're human beings. They don't treat you like you're human beings because you're not. You're a threat. And if all of you rise up, you're an even bigger threat. Yep. So that was my whole point and talking about that, because to me, while progressives continue to blame Republicans and blame just, this whole left-right paradigm, myopic view of politics into the Republicans and the white domestic terrorists and all this crap, while they continue to do that, it is progressives that are continuously standing in their way. It is progressives and the Democratic establishment, like the Squad, like several members like Ro Khanna, who was supposed to be a progressive, all these people. It's their actions and the actions of the Democratic Party that prevent any sort of revolution from happening, any sort of remotely like actual change to the system from happening.
I think that they are more of a threat and more of a danger than the actual Republicans.
Right.
Because the Republicans are out there and they're saying, we disagree with this. This is what we believe. This is our ideology. Where the Democrats, especially when it comes to the progressive members, they act, like I said, like you're your friends and your loved ones, and they care, and we're united by our values. So now then you buy into them, whatnot, but every single chance they get to screw you, especially when it comes to the vote, which we've shown today, and 2 separate bills, which they're supposed to be, that's their number 1 and 2 issues, they're going to screw you. And that's the way it goes. They are the more of a danger than in the Republicans. And that's why, and this is something that Noam Chomsky talks about, that's why he's critical to the left media. He's critical to the Democrats and stuff like that, because first of all, they speak at a higher intellectual level than a lot of the Republican media out there.
Right.
So therefore, they can trick you a lot easier too, and they can get things by you. So that's why it's important for us now to call them out for who they are, whatnot. Nobody really, any true progressive should not be with the squad anymore. They've showed their colors across the board. They should have been left in the dust a long time ago, and it's really sad that you're still trying to play this game and try to re-erect these other kind of establishment Democrats like Jimmy Gomez and all these other people to make them look like they're really good when they can't even show up for debates and take nothing but PAC money.
Well, and again, and this has been talked about, you know, and I'd like to have like a Caleb Maupin or one of those people to talk about this. Maybe I'll have Esha on, because when we've read Lenin and you read all of these things that have happened in history, because if you want to know about the future, you have to study history. And this has been also in the past, when during the Lenin's time, and there was the attempt at revolution, it wasn't the people that were outright obviously fascists that really got in their way as much as the people who were outright obviously the fake socialists, the fake, you know, revolutionaries. They weren't there for real revolution. They were doing theatrics and enabling the fascists in their own way, because they were forcing the people to think that there was a hope in rebranding and reforming the current system. And there wasn't. And every time a revolutionary would actually come and say, no, stop listening to these people, they're doing theatrics, stop, like, they would come in and rebrand themselves and present themselves as allies when they wouldn't be. And that was what was stopping them, this side, from fighting at all, from fighting the real enemy, right? And right now our real enemy are truly the class, like the empire, the predator class. Those as a whole, they might be Republican, they might be Democrat, they might be whatever. That's our real enemy, the state agencies right now. We can't even fight that because we're too busy trying to expose still that this duopoly is an illusion, that it's an oligarchy. Yep. So another thing I wanted to show is that while this is happening and all of this is true, Emma makes a tweet where she gets to call her friend Anna spitting fire, right? And she said, some fire from my girl Anna Kasparian. And then Max Blumenthal goes, days after attacking progressive legislators for not being tough enough on the homeless population, which is what we showed in our video from yesterday, suburbanite neocon Anna Kasparian accuses me of harassment for politely asking Cori Bush one critical question in an otherwise friendly interview, but shut down by her angry staff. That's exactly what happened. We all saw the video. We all saw how he was really nice and friendly. He led with the easy questions, and which is the go-to journalist way to do it, right? You start out easy and then you just get them with the second or third question. And she couldn't answer it. And when she started answering it, her staff came in. They wouldn't even allow her to answer. So is Cori Bush even in control of her own answers? No. It's just really sad. And
that's very telling too, fam, with the fact that they came in the way they did. It's like who had the rights and the know-how to say, okay, we got to get in here right now, we got to save her, whatnot. The overlords, the bosses, the notes coming down from the donors in the predator class saying this is what they can talk about, this is what they can't talk about. And if she gets pushed back on this, go save her. Get in there. And that's exactly what they did. And again,
TYT, if you don't think TYT has a connection to these campaigns, because AOC and all the squad only go on their shows. They only go on their shows. They have one of the spokespersons for AOC go after Max Blumenthal, go after I think they mentioned Franco and others that were there criticizing the squad and the protest. Like, they already had, like, a whole person put out a bunch of tweets, like, defending, oh, no, that's not what happened. And then, of course, TYT and Emma and all these, you know, people from my Majority Report, they retweet it, and they pretty much convey what these, the PR, like, narrative management for the squad. That's what they're there to do. They're there to say, no, the squad is in the right. These meanies, these mean, awful, rude clowns are there, like, ruining it. They're making it about themselves, even though they're trying to expose them about how this is not really what they're talking about, how they're having photo ops with Adam Schiff and like, god damn it, Adam fucking Schiff, like, are you serious? And Chuck Schumer and all these people coming in and just it's so gross, dude. It's so gross. And so by pointing that out, now you're mean. Like, we're not here to serve politicians. And of course, Anna was narrative managing. We talked about this yesterday with Franco, what she did. And again, reiterating the point, driving home this point, because there was an article released that I think was a little clickbaity, because it said Nancy Pelosi killed Medicare for all. She's been killing it, guys. She's never put it to a floor vote. That's the whole point. But I want you guys to watch this video. I found this video that was very little talked about from a few months ago, where Nancy Pelosi reiterated that she does not support Medicare for all, in spite of course, being in a pandemic, in spite of her previous support for universal health care a long time ago. I think it was 93 or 94. And in spite of her district, she says, I know my district overwhelmingly supports it. She talks about not having the votes, but then she also says she just believes the path is forward is through the ACA. Let's watch.
1993, you were one of 90 Congress members to sponsor a Medicare for all style, single-payer healthcare bill and advocated extensively for the legislation. You testified in favor of the bill in the House Rules Committee, like I did nearly 3 decades later, requesting a floor vote on the bill. You said that you supported the bill in part because of its, quote, savings.
Savings which spring from early intervention, people seeking and receiving health care earlier in the game so that they don't have more costly health care and hospital stays. It is interesting to see how under scrutiny, when people really take the look at these bills, how brilliantly the single-payer plan stands out. It has support in my community. It has support across the country.
Do you still support single-payer health insurance, Speaker Pelosi?
My comments far preceded the Affordable Care Act. I believe that the Affordable Care Act has better benefits than Medicare has, and I have made that clear. Strengthening Medicare was very much a part of the Affordable Care Act. We took funds from one place where the Republicans wanted to put them and put them to extend the solvency of Medicare, because that is essential. It's a pillar of economic and health in our country. That we want to expand the benefits by having the Secretary negotiate for lower prices is very much a priority for us. But since the 25 years or more almost of when we were fighting for that in the Congress, we didn't get it, and we don't have the votes to get it now. I know 153 sounds like a good number, but it ain't no 218. And again, we see it as, let's strengthen it as we did in the Affordable Care Act. Let's expand it by having the negotiated lower prices. Let's see how much money we have there to afford lowering it. But I am not a supporter of Medicare for all. However, it is very popular in my district. But I didn't want to be, I myself think the path to health care for all Americans is a path down the road of the Affordable Care Act.
What she doesn't tell you is that she takes money from big pharma and insurance companies, and the majority of the Democrats do as well. And that's why they are so for the ACA. That's why they're there to keep the pharmaceutical industry there in negotiating something that shouldn't be negotiated. Medicine shouldn't be up for negotiation. You're talking about creating a system where people can get the medicine they want, whether, in our opinion, in my opinion in particular, it should be also include medicinal marijuana and other substances that could help to alleviate without relying on opioids. Obviously, we have an opioid crisis in America that could be talked about, but no, they're not doing that. She's not going to do that, guys. She's saying, I don't support it. Yeah. And then she's saying, oh, we don't have the votes for it. But imagine if we did have the votes for it. She still wouldn't fucking support it. She's telling you there that she's not going to support it because she is backed by corporate interests, and her corporate interests won't fucking support it.
She used it as a campaigning tool. She was never really intended to go out in there and fight and get it and whatnot. And that's what the squad's doing too. Same exact thing. Nancy Pelosi is a blueprint for what you see AOC to be down the road. Okay, a lot of gaslighting, a lot of out there with this and this and that, but never go and sink your teeth into the legislation and get it passed. They're not going to do it. And how disgusting is it that she's doing it to a person, that gentleman who's got a fucking
ALS.
Yeah, I mean, and she's sitting there. I don't support helping you out. You know what I'm saying? I support giving the Affordable Care Act, which was a disaster. It really was a disaster. Yeah. It's strengthening. It was a give out to the insurance companies,
and
that's
she wants
what
to strengthen that. Yeah, they're there to strengthen that, and again, you're right, exactly right, AOC, because this happened over 27 years ago. Right? Over 27 years ago, she was out there supporting universal health care. And now look, and AOC talked about a 30-year plan to get health care for all. That's why people compare her to Pelosi, because she's literally dangling a carrot for people who don't have the time to wait for this basic minimum shit we shouldn't even be discussing. And
here comes this one.
So I know Pasta was going to enjoy this one because our friend Ryan Grimm, Ryan Grimm is a good friend of mine. Ryan Grimm decided to blame Republicans for Nina's loss effectively, right? Because he said progressives, including Nina Turner, pushed hard for open primaries. And this analysis finds strong evidence of a significant number of people who typically vote Republican choosing a Dem ballot to oppose Turner over Israel. So
they're really going to go with this shit right now without any data to back this out whatsoever.
So
this is a fucking talking point gone wild.
This is from dansdeal.com. It says in the most heavily religious Jewish precincts, Beechwood A went to Brown with 338 votes, 91.1% over Turner with 33 votes, and Beechwood B went to Brown with 358 votes, over 89.7% over Turner with 41 votes. About 42% of the votes in these precincts were for Trump in 2020, but only 17 people voted for the Republican primary ticket yesterday. So
so they did throw a little numbers in there.
Yeah.
Congratulations, whatnot.
That doesn't mean anything. Yeah. I would need to know more specifics about this type of survey, who they surveyed, because if it's like a pro-Democrat survey, you're only going to get Democrats. Like it's basic statistics 101. Your sample size needs to be representative and big enough for you to consider this a valid poll. Ryan Grimm doesn't know anything about elections. He doesn't know anything, and it shows. Again, I don't care what you think. We cannot say with 100% accuracy that this election was fair. One, obviously special interests are involved from the get-go, and Nina Turner was at a disadvantage. Obviously it's not fair. But apart from that, we can't look into the ballots. We can't check the machines. We can't have audits. So how can you tell me that this election was fair? People are like, yeah, they found no evidence. I saw all the California Democrats attacking me because Lauren Steiner put out on her Facebook, oh, Fiorella has gone crazy. Look at her. She's saying that everything's rigged now. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, we don't have fair elections in this country, you fucking moron. We don't, like, if we did, we wouldn't have this problem. I'm trying to help fucking progressives because you're so idiotic and stuck in your ways that you think that we live in a justified society where you have fair elections and your vote fucking counts. And until you stop believing that, we're not going to get anywhere. So yes, no, we don't have fair elections. You cannot tell me that this election was fair. We're consistent here. If we're going to talk about Trump and his election, we're going to talk about the progressive elections. Why? Because they're more than likely they're not accurate. We don't know. You can't prove to me that they are because we don't have audits. Yeah. And these people that from the California Democratic Party, there's no evidence of that. Okay, show me your no evidence of that. How do you show no evidence of that? Please. Was there an audit? Do we have access to the ballots? Do you know this is proprietary software? Do you even know what type of machines? Johnny pulled it up the other day. Do you even know what that means? Do you even know how Ohio elections are run? No. So how can you tell me that this election was fair just blatantly? And nobody's talking about this because this is the issue that they completely just push aside and say, well, next time Nina just needs to run with better people and just have blah, 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 and they're going to keep doing the same thing. Yeah. and expecting different results.
In
Insanity.
In this particular number over here, that's a difference of 620 votes, and that's not what swung this election, okay? When you look at those numbers, 338, 358, and you minus the 74 votes from Nina Turner, that's less than, that's just a little bit over 600 votes. That's not going to swing an election when there's almost 40,000 votes to the winner. That's just not going to swing it. And, like I said, I'd like to see the cast vote records. I'd love to get a hold of them. And I'd like to take a look and see where the majority of the votes came from. I would guarantee you, I'm going to put it out there right now, that Chantel Brown won the majority of mail-in votes. I'm going to put a guess out there. We'll see. We'll get those numbers and we'll take a look. We'll see how many mail-in ballots she got as far as voting for her, as far as in precinct polling that day. We'll take a look at that. So, and that will give us more of a hint of what's going on.
And it's not like Republicans, some of them are pro-Israel, but some of them are not. Some of them are not. Some of them are not at all. That's, hello, that you should know that by now. It's just to use it on that whole surface level, they're just, it's because of Israel, so they voted against her. Most Republicans aren't going to care about that race. They're going to vote for the Republican. Right. What are you talking about? You're saying that Republicans led to this, and so now we shouldn't have open primaries? What? That's kind of what he's suggesting here. And Shauna Burley posted this tweet. No, Nina Turner, now that your election is over is not the time. The time was when we had the Medicare for All events across the country, and you pretended they didn't exist. Don't act like you care now, because Nina Turner said yesterday, time for Medicare for All. U.S. healthcare system ranks dead last among rich nations. Again, blah blah blah. And so she finally talks about Medicare for All after her election. Do you see what the hell is going on here? Let's, now that we're done campaigning to try to placate to the establishment, let's talk about Medicare for All. That wasn't the right time. And so my whole point in that section was the Democratic establishment and their little minions now in the squad that are pretending to be anything different are the actual threat to any sort of progressive revolutionary change, period. They're the ones, not the Republicans, they're a problem, but we can't even face that problem at all because we're too busy over here. And that's what these people don't get. They criticize us. Why does Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald in the Convo Couch only go after the squad? Why don't they ever go after the right? They must like them better. Because, again, the right doesn't get our donations. The right doesn't get our attention. The right isn't out there saying they're fighting for these things. Right. They're not saying that. I'm focused on the people that are pretending to be something they are not. Because those people are fucking a fox. They're fox. They're not showing you the teeth under their fucking smile, and that is so much fucking worse.
Yep. Johnny, anything else about this? All right, so we're going to get to the next section, guys. This is going to be a Rokfin only. I'm going to read some super rays, and after we read these super rays, we're going to switch over to the Rokfin only. So get over to the Rokfin, Rokfin. We got 99 people watching, so the next person to jump on in is the 100th person.
I got 99 problems.
But the squad ain't one. And for the 100th person, we're going to send out a toaster. Just kidding. Anyways, just get on over there. Rokfin, Rokfin. We love you all. Kidding. There's almost 300 people on the YouTubes, so come on over. So Trimble Von Haas. What do you think of finding these empty homes and exercising squatter protest?
Yes.
Cheers. I think it's a great idea.
Hell yeah.
I think it's a great idea. And we have two other tips real quick. Stargazer, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, fam. And your other friend, Eric Ball. He didn't leave a sentence either. So thank you very much for the Super Ray contribution, Eric Ball. It is always appreciated on the couch. Ball. Whatever. Yes, get on over, guys. We're leaving. We're going to Rokfin in 3, 2,